Welcome to The Real with Joseph Labman. I am Joseph Labman. Thank you for tuning in this episode of The Real, taking time out of your day to come watch this episode. I really appreciate that. If you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe for me. I'd really appreciate that as well. That's the best way you can support this channel and help me grow my content and grow this channel to where I'd like it to be. Everybody hit the like button for me on the way in on this video today. That also helps promote this video more in the algorithms, helps grow this channel more as well. Please share this content. I would really appreciate that. My guests would as well. If you would please share this episode with someone you know that maybe is interested in the topic we're talking about today. Please leave a comment below as well. We'd love to hear your guys' feedback. You can interact with myself and the guest on the panel and the live chat as well. Whatever we're talking about, just leave a comment there in the live chat. Pop in and say hello. We'll put it on the screen for you. And yeah, without further ado, let's get to the show. That still gets me every time, my man Taylor. But welcome, welcome into The Real with Joseph Latman. I am Joseph Latman. Hope you guys are having a great week. I'm back. Sorry, I was off last week. It was not planned. I will get to that in a minute. I'll tell you what happened. But if you're new here, please like, subscribe, and share. I'd really appreciate that. And welcome on in tonight. We'll get into Shedeur Sanders stuff here in a minute. And crazy day in the sports too with the Luka Doncic stuff to LA and AD and all that. That stuff's wild. But yeah, welcome on into The Real. Hope you guys are having a good week. It's finally a little warmer outside here in Ohio, so that's good. It's good for it to be a little warmer because it was brutally cold last time I did a live. It was still like below the single digits, low wind chill. So it felt like it's funny when it's like it gets cold like that. You go outside, it feels like it's like early spring. Like it feels like you're like, man, it's warm outside today. You look at the thing, it's still 38. And so, but it's good. But it's good to be back up here. It feels good to be up here tonight. I see we got some people in the comments already. Tori, welcome on in. He said, "Oh, I believe Browns take Sanders." I'll get to that in a minute, Tori. Welcome on in, my brother. But if you guys don't know about this show as well, you can see up there it says hashtag more than anxiety. And I've gotten away from that side of the show for a while, the anxiety, real life stuff. I'm getting back to it now. I had to take a break for a little bit, just because I just needed a break from it, to be honest with you guys. I needed time to grow for myself and really take off in my life and move on from all that. And that's what I've done in the last 6, 7 months. And the last 6, 7 months have been the best 6, 7 months of the last 10 years of my life. And so, of going through all that, overcoming anxiety and disorder, panic disorder, and all that. And, I might be speaking on another platform here soon, a big one. I had a global audience. And so, sharing more of that story, my update. But I am going to get into more of that stuff, not strictly just anxiety. I want to get into other things on the show as well. So stay tuned for that this week. I might start expanding to other things, reacting to things, little 20-minute videos for you guys. I think you guys will like it. And you get to hear me talk about different things in a different way, in a real way. That's why it's called The Real. And so, but yeah, so last week, though, to tell you a more than anxiety moment for me, Amy knows my story, which I've shared on this show many times. I've dealt with severe health anxiety for a long time. Panic disorder, anxiety, and all that, agoraphobia. There was times where I couldn't leave my house for almost a year back when I was like in high school at 17, 18 years old. I was afraid to tell people, speak about it publicly, what people judge me, the symptoms and everything. Well, last week, well, you think of somebody going through all that, their last place they would want to go to is what? The hospital. It's so last Sunday, I'm sitting there going through my day, watching got the NFC Championship game, the AFC Championship game, and I was helping my father was doing a home project where we were hanging a TV somewhere down in our workout room, and he said, "So happy." Oh, he'll be up here in a minute. I don't know why you got a problem with Mike. Mike, you love Mike Teflon. Teflon's Mike Teflon or I love you, Teflon, but Mike's a good dude, man. You gotta give him a shot. It's good to disagree with him. You gotta give him a shot, brother. But I'm getting a little sidetracked, but welcome on to the stream. But um, but long story short, so I was helping my father do a home project last week, and we were hanging this TV up, and my dad had to cut like a wooden stud. It was down in our workout room in our basement, and so I didn't even help with the thing. He did all most of it by himself. I was doing other stuff, but I need to obviously help him hang it up. And so I go down there, I start to hang up the TV, and where he cut the piece of wood, there was still shavings, like wood fibers. And so when I looked underneath to see, because we were trying to put it in a certain slot, we're having a hard time with it. It's hard to explain, but And so I'm holding the TV, I'm trying to put it up there, and I look underneath to see where I need to go. When I looked, a piece of wood fiber landed just perfectly in my right eye. And I was like, "Oh, man." I mean, it landed just perfectly. And so, obviously, naturally, you try to get it out of your eye, and so I did that for, like, 40 minutes, washing it, trying to get it out, rubbing it, which doesn't help. Now, it's not a good thing, I learned that. But this is right before 5 o'clock. And so all the way up until about 8 o'clock, I mean, for 3 hours, I tried getting in the shower. I tried using saline. I tried using everything at home. And it got to the point where we're like, you know what? I gotta go. And so I had some bad anxiety, obviously, because it's the first time I've been there since I was 8 years old. And I was panicking real bad. I'm like, man, I don't want to go to the ER. But who does? You know what I mean? Who does? But I felt a lot more at peace this time. I felt like I could handle it now because I know who I am. I've overcome the anxiety and overcame all that. And plus, I knew it wasn't that big of a deal. I mean, obviously, it was hurting really bad. I mean, it was staying like crazy. But but I knew I had to go. And so I got in the truck. My mom took me up to the place, not too far, and the hospital was great. It was Cleveland Clinic. Shout out to them, and doctors were phenomenal. I get in there, and the nurses were great. They were working with me, and tell me, it's okay to be sorry. I told me I got just got I'm a little nervous right now. But I settled in, I laid down, and I was laying there watching the Chiefs game. And I watched the end of the Chiefs game, and I wanted the Bills to win. And as I'm watching, I'm starting to calm down now. I'm starting to feel better because I was really just worried about my eye, and plus I had to go. But then I start seeing what happened at the end of that game and the BS there. Now I'm really starting to get pissed. It's now I calm down. I'm sitting there in the room. I'm calming down. Now I'm getting pissed. I had to get up, go take a piss in the bath. I said, I can't handle this. My mom was getting pissed off. She was rooting for the Bills. Everybody wanted the Bills to win, obviously, if you're not Kansas City or a Taylor Swift fan. And so I'm sitting there, I watch it, and now I'm getting pissed. And now I'm like, I want to go home. And I'm going to get anxious again. And I'm start worrying about my eye because of the stupid ass game I had on. And so long story short, the doctor comes in, they look at it, and it was great. It was great, and I did phenomenal. And it was when I walked out of there that night. It was a great thing for myself to tell myself, hey, look how far you come. You're not that person anymore. And so, but they looked at it. They thought they saw something there. So he's like, you got to go see the ophthalmologist tomorrow morning. Make sure you go there. Because we're ER doctors, not really trained to look at that stuff or do anything. So just go there. And so I go home that night. Man, I was in pain. I barely slept that night. It was burning so bad. And so, uh, I get home and I mean, I get up the next morning. Excuse me, after I got a little bit of sleep, and I'm like, I gotta get to that damn ophthalmologist because it is burning like a mug. And so I uh, I get to the ophthalmologist, and I'm just like ready for this stuff to be over. I'm tired. I'm pissed off. I finally got my ointment that they prescribed for my eye from the pharmacy because I couldn't get that night, obviously, because it was already late. And so I put the ointment in my eye, and it's starting to help a little bit. So I go to this ophthalmologist I've never been to before, and the nurse was great. She was cool. We're in there just talking and stuff, having a good time and laughing in the office. And the doctor I had to go see, that's how savage this guy was. He walks in there, and I got my Ohio State hoodie on, and he shakes my hand. He goes, "Hi, I'm Doctor So and So." I'm not gonna say his name. He says, "Hi, I'm Doctor So and So." I say, "Hi, I'm Joseph." He goes, "Oh, Bucks, huh?" He goes, "Go Bucks." And we start talking about the Buckeyes. He goes, "Yeah, I wish we would have put 60 up on put 60 on Notre Dame, man. I want us to blow out everybody." And we start talking about them, and this guy, he just like put the numbing drops in my eye because obviously when they had to look in there and they had to put the numbing drops in there, and when they looked at the little scope, and so this is how savage this guy was. He just looked in the scope, looked back at his nurse. He was like, "I don't need to die." He just grabbed a little thing of pliers, went like this, and just pulled the wood fiber right off my eye. And then shook my hand and said, "Have a nice day," and just walked out. And I was just like, "Damn." Like I went through all that pain all night. When I was at the ER, the guy at the ER drew my eye, and he's like, I'm not the best at drawing eyes, but he's like, "Hey Joseph," he goes, "let me draw it out for you." He goes, "So, if this is your eye, this is your pupil." He goes, "You got something right up here." I don't know if you guys can see this. He's like, "You got something like right up there. It was like a scratch or something." And so I was like, "Really?" So the whole night I'm thinking, I'm gonna be honest with you guys, I was thinking the worst case scenario all night. I couldn't sleep. I was in so much pain. When you have something stuck in your eye and it's puffy, it's almost like swelling shut, and it's burning, it's so watery. It is pain. I don't wish that on anybody, obviously. But I mean, you start to think something's wrong, and I'm thinking, man, the guy at the DR told me he thought it was like maybe a cut or something. I'm like, man, but I just felt something was in there though too. But I was so relieved when that guy walked in there and just shook my hand, pulled the thing off, and just walked out and said, "Go Bucks." I was so thrilled. I was so happy. I was like, man, number one, I was glad it was a piece of fiber because it wasn't a cut. And then, but also too, it was just, I couldn't thank the Lord enough. Just for helping me through the whole thing. And then the third thing too is just it really showed me mentally how far I've really come. Sometimes when you overcome anxiety, guys, and I know we're gonna get a short order. That's a big thing, but I want to share this with you guys, especially because I have another audience too that's followed me through my start of this show for almost 3 years now. I know my journey, and I've shared it. So I want to share this with you guys. I think it's a good story too for people just to, uh, for in general. It's kind of funny too, but it's good to have those reminders in life, guys. Remember that. I think sometimes what holds us back is we look too far in the past. I do that at least, especially people who overcame anxiety. Right? We look in the past. We're afraid of the past, the things that were bad in our past coming forward to again in our future in the present moment, right? But you can't go 70 mile an hour down the expressway looking backwards. You'll get in a crash. And so it was a good reminder for me that I am more than anxiety and I'm beyond anxiety and that it's not part of my life anymore. Um, but also it reignited me as well. And I took a break from all that from this show. We went full blast into sports for the last couple months. And well, a couple months since probably August. I've taken a break from that side. I had to take a break, but now I'm ready to get back. I'm fueled. I'm ready to go, and I feel fired up again to really help you guys in that way. And it's gonna be a different way this time. It's gonna be a different flavor, and you guys are probably gonna hear me talk in a way you've never heard me talk before. So, I don't mean that in like a bad way, but I mean I think you guys will really appreciate what's about to come. But that's also the story why I wasn't here last Sunday because of my eye. And so, but by the grace of God, thank you, Lord, that He protected my eye, and it was just a piece of wood fiber. And shout out to the savage doctor at that eye place. He was ice cold with it. I mean, just went in there and just bam, like Jordan Game 6. I mean, just pulled it right out of my eye, and then walked right out like there was nothing. And I can't thank him enough because man, that my eye was killing me when that stuff was stuck in my eye. But guys, but oh yeah, by the way, my eye's good now. You can see I'm normal. I'm good. So I'm all good. But yeah, man. I'm just happy to be here tonight. Relieved. I'm happy to be here. It's great to be back tonight. And let's get into the main topic of the show now. I appreciate you guys for tuning in. Shedeur Sanders. Could Shedeur Sanders be a Cleveland Brown? Well, I'll be honest with you guys. I don't claim to be an insider or anything, but based on the stuff I've heard, and when you just look at if you know how to read the media, you know how to read the tidbits in the media, when stuff starts to feel hot, you feel like there's some traction with something, you know something's brewing. There's smoke. Well, there's smoke, there's fire. And if you would have told me 2 months ago, a month ago, that the Browns would take Shedeur Sanders, I'd say hell no, which I said on the show. Because even people I listen to out in Colorado who know the Sanders very well, who are good dudes, they even say hell no still. But I think there's some smoke here. I think that if I had to bet my money right now would I take Shedeur at number 2? No. I would still go Travis Hunter, personally. No, or maybe Abdul Carter. That's just me. I'm not 100% sold on him yet to take him at 2. But if I had to bet my money, if I was a betting man right now, I think the Browns are taking Shedeur Sanders number 2. I think Cam Ward's going number 1, and I think Cam Ward's going number 1. I think Shedeur Sanders is going to go number 2 to the Browns. There just seems to be a lot of smoke here. His comments at the Shrine Bowl, and then Andrew Berry's comments, saying, I got it right here, talking about how Andrew Berry says, confident that Deion Sanders will be fine with Shedeur playing for the Browns. As you can see right there, you guys have probably already seen it. Yeah, we're confident that Shedeur will be playing for the Browns. Yeah, if you know Andrew Berry, he's very calculated in everything he says. It's almost like Andrew Berry said it to me in a way. When you read the full quote, I don't have it in front of me, but when you read the article, it's almost like maybe it is right here. Let me scroll down. Where's his quote? You guys know how he is. Oh, right here. I don't anticipate that being a problem. Wait a minute. So I don't anticipate that being a problem. Why are you anticipating it? You know what I mean? Like usually, if Andrew Berry wasn't sold on a guy, or if you're a GM, you don't know who you're taking yet, you would say, "Well, we don't know. Maybe if that cross, you would say something more like, if we get to that point, maybe that we'll talk about it then." But or you would just say no answer. You give like a no answer. Nah, he said it right there. You can see right. He said it. I don't anticipate that being a problem. Almost like he again the word anticipate. Like that's what we're doing. We're taking the sun, and we don't care if Dion likes it or not. I don't think it's going to be a problem. And I almost think he said it almost like they have confirmation from Dion, possibly. They met with Shedeur a couple times, I believe, already. They met him at the Shrine Bowl. And then Shedeur's brother, shout out to Well Off Media, Bucky, shout out to Bucky, Deion Sanders Jr. He was at the Shrine Bowl following Shedeur around. And I don't have the clip in front of me. You remember what it was one of his receivers, Will Shepard, came up to the video and they were filming. He's like, and he says, rumor is you're gonna be a Brown. And obviously Shedeur just gave kind of politically correct answer, like, I'm just happy wherever I go. But I thought it was interesting, that the way they even put that out there, they would even joke about it. Almost like, are they warming it up? I mean, are they like you hear Andrew Berry's comments? Remember you had Dion say that the whole when he replied that it was capped that he would block the Shedeur going to Tennessee or Cleveland. And then you got Andrew Berry saying this, and you got Shedeur joking about it on his brother's, platform on Well Off. It just seems like where there's smoke, there's fire. And then you got the whole thing this week that came out that Bill Musgrave, the Browns' new quarterback coach who's been in the building, he and Deion Sanders have a long-time relationship. And that they played together back in San Francisco. And that Deion last year at a clip spoke very highly of Bill Musgrave. So there's some familiarity there, probably some trust as well. I mean, nobody's ever coached Deion Sanders' son, Shedeur, other than him. So I think the biggest thing for Deion is trust. Who does he trust, taking care of his son and coaching him and taking him to the next level? I think that's the biggest thing. And then I think the second thing, I do think there might be a little, this is just, you call it conspiracy, I don't know. I do think there might be a little wink, wink, backdoor, like, hey, if you take me, yeah, it'd be nice if you take my brother too. If you want me, can you take Shiloh? Can you take one of my receivers possibly too? Can you do both those things? I think the Browns would do both. I mean, they gave Deshaun Watson, who sat on the couch for 2 years, didn't play football, all his allegations. They gave him $230 million fully guaranteed. So why wouldn't they do it? So you know what I mean? So I don't know, man. Where there's smoke, there's fire. If I was a betting man right now, I think Shedeur will be a Cleveland Brown. And also there's connections too with Pat Shurmur and Kevin Stefanski. They've come from the same backgrounds in Minnesota. When Pat Shurmur would have got the job in the New York Giants before they took Matt Patricia, I think, not Matt Patricia, the guy from the Patriots, I can't remember his name. Michael, correct me in a minute. But when they hired somebody from the Patriot tree instead of Pat Shurmur was going to hire Kevin Stefanski as his offensive coordinator. So that's how, they have a good relationship, a good bond there. And so I think when there's smoke, there's fire, like I said. And I think Tommy Rees would probably do really well with Shedeur Sanders. I really do. I think Tommy Rees could work well with any quarterback, but the more I've heard about him privately from people that know about him and people that worked with him, because I do have some, friend of mine and other people in the industry that give me some insight about him, because coaching circles, they all know each other, and that's how that's how it's like any business world. You all know each other, and you know how people are and how they work and operate and stuff. And everything I hear about Tommy Rees is just phenomenal. He's a stud. He's a young upcoming superstar. But he's really good with all quarterbacks. He can work with any quarterback and he can make it work to the best of their abilities. And so if I had to bet right now, I think Shedeur will be a Cleveland Brown. But I'm curious what my man Mike has to say. So I'm patiently waiting in the back. We got some, I think Georgie's going to be up here in a little bit too. Mike, you there, brother?
Hello.
Sorry for keeping you waiting in the back. I had to explain what happened last week.
How dare you? Okay.
But I had to warm it up too with the Shedeur thing, Mike. But welcome into the real tonight, Mike. How you doing, bro?
I'm doing pretty good. Can't complain. Watched the Royal Rumble this past Saturday, so that was a lot of fun. Joe Hendry made an appearance. Believers, if you're out there, we're all hyped for Joe Hendry.
What's the song? Mike?
Huh?
What's the song? You want to give us a little?
Oh, I ain't gonna sing it, dog. Just look it up. Just look it up.
You gotta do what you do on the phone, dude.
I can't. Can't do it. I believe in Joe Hendry, though. I am a believer. I'll
Well,
tell you.
Mike, well, are you a believer, Mike, in Shedeur Sanders being a Brown?
So I'm going to give you percentages because I don't know if I'm all the way there yet. But at the moment, I'm 52% yes, 48% no.
So what have you seen and heard about all this? I know you've talked to people behind the scenes too, that you've
Yeah.
grown relationships with. What are you hearing about this Shedeur stuff? Because it seems to
So
be it's really growing to be a real thing.
it is. It really, really is. Insiders at the Senior Bowl seem to think for sure that not only is excuse me, goodness, that not only is Cam Ward the for sure number one overall pick, but that the Browns are more than likely going quarterback at 2, and the only quarterback they would feasibly take it to is Shedeur. Not to mention all the stuff that you had already mentioned. It can't really be stated how close that Pat Shurmur and Kevin Stefanski really are. They still today, Kevin's not an emotional guy. We all know that, right? Kevin's very
mild mannered.
Yeah, keeps his relationships close to his chest, doesn't really say anything. But on the topic of Pat Shurmur, Kevin has stated multiple times, we talk almost every day. He's one of my great friends in football.
Yep.
So I could only imagine Pat Shurmur would speak glaringly about Kevin Stefanski to Dion, to Shedeur. And also, you had already mentioned the relationship with Bill Musgrave. They played in San Francisco. Dion already has a great relationship with Bill, and it can't be understated. Like, Bill is looked at as a quarterback whisperer. That's what he did in college for so long. He was very well respected in that role. And having somebody that your father is so close to as your personal quarterbacks coach, I think would make a lot of sense.
He's been around a long time, Bill Musgrave, too.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And I think it goes without saying as well that, between the two quarterbacks or any quarterback, in a West Coast style offense, a classic Kevin Stefanski offense, Tommy Rees said it himself, like, hey, what's the most important aspect of a quarterback? What's important to you when you look for a quarterback in a draft or anywhere, a free agency? Decision making. And what did Shedeur Sanders say is his biggest strength? Decision making.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the other thing is, like, Shedeur Sanders would fit very well in a West Coast style offense. He's like a great decision maker. He's got a great arm. Now, why I'm still not completely sold, I don't know where I would put his NFL comp quite yet. I like the way he layers the ball. He's extremely accurate. Great arm. That nothing's missing in. And also pocket mechanics are probably the best.
Very good. Yeah,
I would say pocket mechanics. Even if he came out last year, he would probably have top 3 pocket mechanics, even in that class. Now, the biggest question mark with Shedeur is his athleticism. Is he going to be able to extend plays at the NFL level? I don't know. Maybe his decision making with the ball in his hand makes up for some of that. Because Jameis Winston, right, coming out of Florida State, ran a 5 flat. I wouldn't be shocked if Shedeur ran something similar at the combine, assuming that he'll do the combine. But if I'm reading the tea leaves, and the Browns want to go to quarterback at 2, I think you could do a lot worse than Shedeur Sanders. I'm still team Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter. But I've said from the very beginning, if the Browns sink their teeth into these quarterbacks and they like a guy, then draft him. And as far as behind the scenes, Shedeur seems like someone that Kevin would get along with really well. He's a coach's kid, very respectful, great leader in the locker room. just a quarterback, like a coach's quarterback is the way I would put Shedeur Sanders. He is a guy that is going to step up from day one, try to be a leader. And I think, someone who's grown around football his whole life, his entire life, and been taught by Hall of Famer Deion Sanders, I think he would fit very well in a very quarterback-friendly offense that Kevin Stefanski typically runs and would pick up on it relatively quickly. I wouldn't be shocked if we draft well and get the defense right and go back to that old school run-heavy offense, that he has the same impact that Bo Nix had with Denver. I don't think that's too far-fetched for Shedeur. Like, is he going to be Pat Mahomes 2.0 like some people are writing right now? I think that's ridiculous. But could he have a Bo Nix effect? I think that's very plausible. I've been reading the tea leaves with everybody in what they're saying. If the Browns go quarterback, it will be Shedeur Sanders. Unless they are offered a king's ransom by the Giants or Raiders, I could see them just saying, hey, we're going to take our guy. Shedeur Sanders is our guy. And it would have to be a king's ransom.
Or maybe there's some quarterback out there. The next Luka Doncic is going to get stunningly traded.
Yeah. Oh, dude, that was so funny on Twitter today. Everybody was trying to like compare and contrast. Like, oh, what is this in NFL terms? And I'm like, I don't even know if there is one, dude. Like, I don't
know. In the history of
I don't know
anything like that. I mean, everybody's stunned. I mean, I don't know if in the history of sports we've ever seen. I mean, we might get to that later on. But
it sounds good to me too.
Oh, what's up, Parent John? Good to see you. He said, "What's up, gang? Good to see you, brother." We got him now, Teflon, Yee. Shout out to Yee. He said, "Oh, he's going back to my story. I was talking about what happened."
Your eye.
Yeah. Tori. Shout out to Tori. He said, if we draft him, we have to surround him with elite wide receiver play. We have one already in Jerry Jeudy.
And that's the other thing too, is what do you do with the 33rd pick, right? That I think is, even if you take a quarterback, I think that's an even more interesting conversation that you brought up, Paramjot, is where do we go from there, right? Like 33, first pick of the second round is essentially another first round pick. It's the beginning of the second round, but like there are usually so many like Pro Bowl caliber, all elite NFL players that could be sitting there. And that's not to mention that if you want, contractual control of a guy for 5 years, it's not hard to trade up from 33 into the late first. It's not. You'll have teams, even like look at last year, the Bills had a late first round pick. They traded back to the first pick of the second round and selected Keon Coleman. Teams do it all the time. Pick 33 is a very interesting conversation because do you go defense? I think there's going to be some interesting guys there. Mike Green has shot up boards since the Senior Bowl. He's an absolute freak. I just want to watch him. I just wish he knew more pass rush moves, man, but he's so strong.
I don't care.
He's got the athleticism you can't teach.
He might have been 2 months ago. He probably was the most underrated player in this draft.
You and I called it. I had mentioned his name. I was Mike Green from March.
I actually agree with what Mel Kiper said last night. I think the most under player in this draft now is Cody Simon. That's just my opinion. But
if I had to give an award to most underrated player in the draft, and it was because they had such a piss poor years, I'm going to butcher this name, so I apologize ahead of time. Azare Thomas, the corner out of FSU. Yeah, I like him a lot. He's a first round corner talent. I like Trey Harris too.
I like it. Big body too. I like him a lot.
See, Ole Miss receivers though, I don't love Ole Miss receivers. There's not a whole ton of them that have come out recently that have worked out. It's just that Lane Kiffin effect, right? It's all that shot.
DK, you had AJ Brown. I mean, what do you mean? They got superstars coming out.
I know. It's just I'm sorry. I guess Elijah Moore has
everything we can
Elijah Moore has scarred me a little bit.
We can get somebody in the 6th round of Cleveland. Oh, he's a future Hall of Famer. Holy shit, a lot of favorites. But here's what I like about Shedeur, though, going back to him, is I like his poise. He's a very communicative quarterback. Like, when I mean communicative, I mean you watch him on the sideline because they document everything in Colorado, which gives you a really more advanced way of seeing him on the sideline during the game. The way he talks to his guys during the game, how detailed he is in the
Oh
game
yeah,
he is. I like that a lot. That's hard to find nowadays. A lot of people don't know that, but it is. So he has that. He knows he understands what the pro game is going to be because of who his daddy is. Obviously, he's a first ballot Hall of Famer. So, but also too, I think I like that he likes to work in the pocket more. He has great pocket awareness. He can really that guy can work a pocket probably just as good as any quarterback in this class, if not better than anybody else. I mean, the only guy I like is probably I thought Will Howard did a good job with the pocket this year. With Coach Day and Chip Kelly got him right there. So I think probably Will Howard, but other than that, I mean, all these other guys are all ad lib guys. I mean, Jackson Dart even in a way likes to get rid of the ball a little too quickly at times, or make wild plays or throw. He likes to do some wild things, use his legs more. I
Jackson
like.
Dart is a wild prospect. I don't even
He's a
know where he
wild,
falls
yeah,
on
he's a
my board.
wild player. I like his talent a lot. I like the kid, but if I'm picking for this system, well, we're gonna be running just not this system, but for a pro NFL quarterback, I like Shedeur's game and I like Will Howard's game. Um, Now they're different types of players in a way. One's a little bigger. One's got maybe a higher ceiling than the other one. But at the end of the day, I mean, it's got to come down to what they think. I think Shedeur's probably a better play extender than Will Howard, maybe in a little bit. I mean, Will Howard did a good job of that in the playoff, but I think I've seen Shedeur extend plays. I've seen Shedeur show up in some big games. I thought the best game I ever saw him play was the first game I ever saw him play against TCU, and it was their first big game in college from coming out of Jackson State, and he obliterated him. I think it was like 504 yards for 4 touchdowns against a TCU team that just came out the national championship appearance. So in TCU, by the way, that was very impressive. And then from that point on, I was, I got intrigued by him. And this year I watched every game. I pretty much watched every game. Mike knows I call him. He called me on Saturday nights like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Watch Colorado." And so, I was always intrigued with this Colorado Dion thing. I just thought it was really intriguing. It was a lot of fun watching it, and I'll still watch Colorado too because it's just a fascinating thing to me with Dion coaching and stuff.
Yeah.
But going back to him though, I think he's great in the pocket. He's poised, and when they needed a big drive at the end of the games, he even called it last year. His Brady mode. He's going into Brady mode. He's very clutch at times. He makes some pretty good, impressive throws. I mean, that Hail Mary he threw this year to LeJontay Western that Baylor game to tie the game was.
Oh, he is an
couldn't have
excellent arm. Yeah,
he couldn't have threw that ball any better.
he can
And
layer and
I like
passes
his
really.
confidence too. People say, like I heard him last week. He goes, "Here, I can't throw a ball 90 yards, but I can get it where I need to go." I mean, I like that. I like his confidence, and based on what his dad said and people that I know that have been around him out there have said about him, he's the kind of guy who likes adversity. When he gets punched down in the mouth, gets thrown on the ground, he gets better. He gets up and he plays more. He gets into it. Like he plays better when he gets knocked down. And I think they kind of are embracing that. I've heard his dad say recently on a podcast, I can't remember where, but he said Shedeur's the kind of kid that embraces going to a place like a franchise like Cleveland, basically, and trying to turn it around. You know what I mean? Trying to take the unthinkable and do something that nobody thinks you can turn around.
I mean,
I
think
think, to be
about it.
honest with you,
Look
Mike,
what he's done. Him and his dad have done that in college their whole career.
I mean, they've changed the college game. I mean,
yeah, they
whole
turn around
NIL
JSU. They turn around Colorado. I mean,
yeah, I mean they've done it. So I think they embrace that, and I think a lot of it, the Cleveland, saying his dad would not come here, and I was, I thought that for a while too, but that his dad wouldn't let him come here. But I think a lot of that's just kind of just the nostalgic, or just the, not the, what's the word I look for, just the enigma towards the Browns, which I mean they earned that, I mean they earned that. So, but I think that's a lot of it too. That quarterbacks come here to die usually, or nothing works in Cleveland. But I think now the fact that you're seeing Kevin Stefanski for the first time in the 5 years he's been here, he's actually at the Shrine Bowl and the Senior Bowl.
Yep.
And he fired the whole staff after the season that they forced him to hire last year, which we all know about that. Kevin, to me, has been the biggest victim in this organization the last 3-4 years. He has full autonomy now. And
yeah.
Kevin, behind the scenes and with coaching in the coaching world and stuff, Kevin's very well respected, and a lot of coaches defend. I've heard a lot more people defend Kevin Stefanski publicly that are professionals and know what the hell they're talking about than people, saying they should fire him. So I think that speaks merit in a way. And I think that you can trust Kevin with Shedeur. I think Kevin's shown in the past when he had full autonomy and ran his system at times. Like I think in 2023 when we went on that playoff run, the Deshaun thing was over. That's what the whole organization went all in on because he was out for the year. Kevin just took Joe Flacco off the street and said, "Well, let me show you how it's done." And look what he did. Just bam, bam, bam. 300 yard gains, 300 yard gains. Team goes on a run to make the
We
playoffs.
beat the NFC champions that year with PJ Walker.
Right. And so the times where Deshaun wasn't involved, Kevin had control because it didn't matter to the organization because their investment was who? Deshaun. You know what I mean? When Deshaun was the center of the agenda, and because you paid him all that money, shit went south because it wasn't done correctly. It's Mr. San Diego chiming in. Jimmy had to make this investment work because he just put an ass load of money on the line, all guaranteed. All this media smoke and all behind it and all that. It was a mess. All right. But that's over with now. And if I'm Jimmy Haslam, why I want Shedeur Sanders, he's a big name. He's going to bring a lot of traction to your market. People are going to buy his jersey, just like when he went to Colorado. People out in Colorado went nuts and bought his jersey and got the prime gear on and all that stuff. Shedeur Sanders to Cleveland would be huge, and we've had stars here before. Obviously, we know LeBron is here. Obviously, he's from here. That's a little different, but we've had LeBron. We got Spider Mitchell. We've seen Francisco Lindor, Jose Ramirez. We've seen now Baker Mayfield, who's a star name coming out, kind of similar to Shedeur in a way in terms of the name coming out of college and the intrigue. You know what I mean? There's some similarities there in the prospects. Johnny Manziel was a big name coming out. I mean. We've had even Deshaun Watson, all the baggage and stuff, and his name, he's still was a star name at that time, So we've seen that here in Cleveland. It can work in Cleveland because it's the fans of Cleveland may not be the biggest market, but they support your team like a big market, if not more money, right. especially financially. If you are not in Ohio on Sundays, Northeast Ohio, you have no idea what it's like. I mean, the team could be now. This year was probably the lowest I've ever seen it, but every year of my life, the fans they go all out for the Browns. I mean, it is nuts. They will spend money, and it's just like it's part of who we are here. I mean, we got the Hall of Fame here. You know what I mean? It's what it is. But if I'm Jimmy, if I'm trying to get out of the Deshaun Watson thing and move on from that image as fast as possible, I heard people on ESPN this week that really, are trying to push the Shedeur to New York thing. They're so salty that the Browns are.
I mean, I've seen some national media though, like say, "Hey, I actually love."
There has been, but there's also been your typical pundits. I'm not gonna say who, but you know what I'm talking about. That because we want him to go to New York. He needs to go to New York.
I think he would struggle mightily in Brian Dable's system. And I like Brian Dable. I don't think Brian Dable's a bad coach. I think he suffered from horrible personnel issues and horrible decisions by Joe Shane, the GM. I mean, let Saquon walk, All-Pro, almost MVP season. Let Xavier McKinney walk, who ended up becoming, in my opinion, the best safety in the league this past year. Also an All-Pro season. And you replaced him with Nick Singletary and Tyler Nubin, who I think has a bright future in the NFL. But, oh, man. Like, he would struggle in New York. I mean,
well, the media, the pressure, but here, nobody wants to go to. I mean, unless you're going to New York, go tour, you want to go, sightseeing and get some pizza. That's great. But other than that, I don't know who wants to go play there. So,
and honestly, I think it goes without saying. I mean, that division might be just as rough as the AFC North. Like, you're not going to go somewhere in the NFC East anymore, and if you're good, you're not guaranteed to succeed. It's very much like the NFC North now. I mean, look at the Commanders and Eagles, both NFC East teams, both in the NFC Championship game. You got to deal with Jaden Daniels the next forever and a half. The Cowboys still have moments.
The point I was trying to, no, you're good, dude. The point I was making though was I heard people on ESPN this week going, why would he want to go there with the Deshaun Watson hanging over? I'm like, Deshaun Watson's not part of the organization. If I have to keep hearing locally and nationally, people in the media talk about Deshaun Watson and the Cleveland Browns, I'm just turning you off. Deshaun Watson has yes, contractually he's under the Browns probably for another year or two, but he's not going to be stepping foot in Berea ever again. It's over. All right, it's over. I don't want to hear Deshaun Watson's name with the Cleveland Browns ever again. They're not together anymore.
And to your point,
it's like they're they're not together anymore. All right.
Yeah. To your point too. I mean, you said earlier, Andrew Berry, very calculated, keeps everything close to his chest, is a very general manager, right? You know what? Somebody asked him, what do you think of the Deshaun Watson thing? Basically, in his at end of the season press conference. Andrew Deshaun Watson, never love it.
I'm starting that one.
Andrew Berry was asked, what do you think of Deshaun Watson this season and everything? Andrew Berry was very candid, more candid than I think I've seen him ever in the past 5 years since he's been our GM. He goes, this season was an embarrassment, and the trade thus far has been a failure, was his actual words. Andrew Berry has never used that verbiage. And like you said, technically he's still under contract. And bro is out there being like, this trade has been a failure and the season was an embarrassment. You know what? Yep. Kudos to him for owning it.
Yeah, you know what?
And,
I'll go ahead.
And I was just going to say, like, at that point, I knew it was over. If Andrew Berry, the GM, who is very much, organization first, is saying, oh, it was a failure. This season was an embarrassment. Like, Andrew Berry has never used that vernacular as long as he's been the Cleveland Browns GM.
Here's what I'm going to say about Andrew Berry. Because you remember that report came out, Mike, recently that said Andrew Berry, he scouted Deshaun for a couple years when he was in Houston. But when it got time down, when it got in that week when were trying to get him in that deal, Andrew Berry got to a point where Andrew Berry said, I don't feel comfortable.
He doesn't want to do it. It wasn't his idea.
These two people on the screen right here, the San Diego department and Mr. Haslam in Tennessee, they're the ones that got the deal done. And I think what you're seeing now, as candid as Andrew Berry is speaking, the more we've ever heard from him, because they usually give you shit. And Kevin Stefanski,
you see him twice a year.
Kevin Stefanski showing up to games, or not showing up to the Shrine Bowl now, in the Senior Bowl, and actually scouting now. We haven't seen him there ever, and how candid they're talking. And then you hear Andrew Berry talking about this too, about how, I've never seen him say, I don't anticipate being a problem taking Shedeur with Deion, talking about Deion blocking it. He's never spoken this candidly ever in his tenure.
Oh, yeah. And even the Myles Garrett stuff. Hey, so...
Yeah. That too.
Would you accept Myles Garrett for like a three first-round picks? And Andrew Berry said something to the effect of, it could be 7. I don't care. We're not trading Myles Garrett. He is going to get extended this year. This offseason. We're going to make him the highest paid defensive end ever. And he's going to have a one-way ticket from Cleveland to Canton.
Well, yeah, and I think that was Myles' plan all along. Was just good,
but
he's got
to hear that from Andrew.
He got some people in his agency in the front office. Just saying.
Well, yeah, for sure. But my point was, like, you never heard Andrew talk like that before. He'd always be like, "Oh, we're going to keep player contracts between us and the player." Is usually what he would say. Oh, I don't talk about personal things that we talk about with players.
And he said he had to tell his fans he had to. He had to say that to us. Sorry, I'm sorry. Hold on, Parent Joe. My screen's all jacked up. Sorry about that. He had to say that to us fans just to tell us the truth, man, and he did.
Yeah, he did.
That's what I'm saying. And I think Andrew Berry's just saying out loud in a back doorway how he really felt all along.
Yeah, and here
I think Kevin, and you read the report from the Athletic too, how Kevin had to coddle Deshaun and all this, and he had to these dudes,
and we found out why he even had to call plays. Did you see that, Joseph? We found out why he was. Remember, there was that whole hullabaloo. Why did we hire Kevin Dorsey to implement this offense? Right. And Kevin's calling plays. We were so confused. It's because Kevin was trying to protect Ken and everybody else, because Kevin saw what we saw on the field, but he saw it in training camp, how Deshaun was struggling, how this wasn't working for this personnel. And he's like, oh, shit. We're going to struggle. I'm going to call plays.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we were on the show back then. I said, I had a bad feeling about it.
And he was he was fucking protecting everybody. And kudos to Kevin for doing that, because that is what leaders do. He sees, oh, we got a problem here. If something's happening, it's going to fall to me. And then when it finally, kind of fell off, they let Ken call plays. And good for Ken. He found another job. I think that's what they were trying to do for him. Ken Dorsey's now the offensive coordinator for the Cowboys.
Yeah,
If anybody didn't know.
Ken Dorsey's he got hired for the wrong reasons.
He got hired for the wrong reasons, got hired
for the
to
wrong
implement
reasons,
a Deshaun Watson
and
offense. But at the end of the day,
Deshaun Watson also hoodwinked Kevin Stefanski in the report
yeah.
too. It sounds like where he was all bought in on the system when they brought
Oh,
him in
yeah.
from Houston.
And then he comes in and he goes, I
we
don't
were
want
on
to do
the
it.
show, and we were on the show like, man, it sounds great at the time. Like it may work. We were just, we didn't know. Nobody
of
knew.
course.
But
Everybody was just excited. He was an MVP candidate years ago.
And then he gets in the system and he's like, I don't want to play in it. Well, it's like, okay, so it was obviously just
false pretense bullshit.
Yeah. And so here, does Kevin Stefanski need to get better in a lot of areas? Yes, he needs to get better in some things. I've been critical of him in his coaching. He needs to get better in some in-game management decisions. I think he knows that. He's still a young coach. You can give him margin to grow. And I think, obviously Andrew Berry needs to have his best offseason ever. I think there's some question marks there. That's fair. But we all know what the big problem has been the last 5 years, really the last 10 years, which I've exposed on the show with these two on the screen, especially Mr. One on the left there, who's convinced number one on the right of this formula that clearly does not work. And so I think now we're seeing a shift in the Browns organization. And I think that's why also, if I'm Mr. Haslam, how do I get out of all this and
listen to the boys?
That too. But how do I get out of this and forget the Deshaun Watson thing as quickly as possible? You got to get a big name. You got to get somebody else that draws attraction in a positive way, right? Shedeur Sanders, he has a lot of hate, but he also, the media and a lot of people, he has a lot of positivity around him. A lot of people have been rooting for him and his dad. There's been a lot of intrigue with him. It's a great story with him and his dad. That's, if I'm Jimmy Haslam, how do I get out of this quickly as possible? You got to get a big name. You got to get.
I will be super clear too. I want to make a quick point because it just popped into my head. We are going to hear all this draft talk. You're going to hear draft talk from me. I love the draft. That's all I do. If you watch my show, The Professional Fan, you know that, right? The thing with quarterbacks, last year, there were a record-setting 6 quarterbacks taken in the first round. This year, I anticipate there only to be 2, obviously. And we all know their names. However, I did not have a first-round grade on Michael Penix. I did not have a first-round grade on Bo Nix. I did not have a first-round grade on J.J. McCarthy, and, Jerry's still out on him. He was injured all of this past year, but he looked okay in the preseason. Quarterback is the hardest to track position. At the end of the day, you got to trust the coach. Sean Payton liked Bo Nix, so he took him in the first round, worked out. The Falcons, everybody made fun of that pick, but they had to switch to Michael Penix near the end of the season. He looked pretty good. I mean, it looks like the trajectory is up for him. He only played 6 games, I think, 7 games, maybe even less. I'll have to go back and look. If Kevin likes him, no matter what us draft pundits, and I'm including myself in this, no matter what Mel Kiper says, no matter what I say, no matter what the OBR says, no matter what any of us say, if Kevin likes Shedeur Sanders, they got to take him at 2. Whether you think he's worth that or not. And that's kind of where the point I'm just trying to make. At the end of the day, if you think he's the guy, take your guy.
Well, and if I'm them, because I don't know how much time they have. I would think they were maybe given another year or 2.
Oh, I mean, I think so too.
But they have to make a splash quickly. They can't come out of next season with next year can't be another repeat of this year.
No, and
it cannot happen. So
here, if they were to get a king's ransom,
they got to take a risk, probably.
Yeah.
And if they think he's the quarterback they feel the most comfortable with. Now, if you're asking me, out of the top 2 in the draft between Cam and Shedeur, I like Shedeur a lot more. And I think Shedeur can really run this offense. I think Shedeur can be more of a point guard and sit back there and operate the system, get the plays down, make the plays happen, sit in the pocket and get his reads down and go, get in rhythm and then extend as the game goes on and expand more. But this Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski, this regime, they probably have to take a swing this offseason. Because if they hit it, Mike, imagine if Shedeur ends up being the next Jaden Daniels next year, or even just Bo Nix. I mean, we're talking a whole different tune next offseason.
And I expect them to take a running back relatively early.
Well, Oh yeah,
So
we got the comments here. He said, "I wouldn't mind them taking TRWJL Henderson
I
in the
wouldn't.
second
I
round."
like Travion Henderson a lot. If you watch my running back video, he was one of the 5 running backs I highlighted.
Well, I
Now
love
there is
give me
one
TRWJL all
gentleman.
day, baby.
There's one gentleman I would prefer over Mr. Travion Henderson. His name is Caleb Johnson out of Iowa. He is everything that Kevin Stefanski could want in a running back, wrapped up into one dude. He would be perfect in wide zone. He's a good pass catcher. He's a good blocker. He's got strong legs. He's good after contact. He is legitimately, if Kevin Stefanski could build a running back in a lab, it would be Caleb Johnson. And,
He's got the Nick Chubb a little. It kind of reminds me a little bit of Nick Chubb when I first saw him play this year.
dead ass. Yeah. Dead
Not
ass.
saying he's Nick Chubb because Nick Chubb is great, but there's some similarities. He said Kevin is great. It's not his fault. The organization is so inept.
I agree.
Yeah, like I said, I've been critical of Kevin in the past. I think a lot of it's fair. Now he's got to be better at times, but he's a good seed that's been in bad soil. So, yeah, I think Jay Crawford said it like that too. He couldn't said it best. I mean, it happened with Johnny Football. I bought the man's jersey in middle school. I bought the jersey.
We all had a Johnny Manziel jersey, dude.
I had a picture taken in
remember
front of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, Paramount. My back was the back of my jersey said Manziel, and I was sitting there doing the money sign in front of the Hall of Fame.
I'll never forget. That was the first jersey my father bought me when I was a kid. Was a Johnny Manziel jersey. After he was drafted, my dad bought himself a jersey and he bought me a jersey. And everybody was convinced he was going to be.
Oh, here, Johnny was damn good in college. People forget how good he was in college. Like he was.
Yeah. If only he wasn't, didn't have all those problems.
But I'm glad to see. I'm here. I like what he's doing now, though. He's telling a story and a lot of his, I mean, I think it's cool what he's doing now. Like own up to a lot of, not to say own up. You don't owe me anything or anybody in the public, but just hearing like how he's evolved as a person.
Right.
I thought his Shannon Sharp interview was really cool.
So. Yeah, it was. I'm
not one of those fans. I don't like when people. I'm not one of those fans that just trashes a guy forever because he was bad. I mean, here. And then it's just football. But
yes, he did Paramjot. I don't know if we could put that comment up on here, but
allegedly.
Yeah, that's the problems that we were maybe allegedly.
I would just say go listen to his Shannon Sharp.
Yeah, go listen to his stuff.
It was pretty good. I think you'll learn a lot about him. But
take it from the horse's mouth.
We never. Oh, dude, I remember the day I got that jersey. Dude, I showed up to the baseball tournament, dude, and everybody was like, "Man, he's got that Johnny Manziel jersey." I was like,
"Yeah, dude, my Jim Brown jersey's still my favorite though because it's like it's Jim Brown, like him, a Josh Cribbs."
Well, it's funny. I had a Cribbs jersey. Cribbs was my favorite player growing up. Well, let me take that back.
He was everybody's favorite player.
Joe Thomas was my favorite player growing up. That's why I wore number 73. My greatest favorite player of all time is Joe Thomas. I modeled my game after him. But
my favorite Brown of all time.
Love Josh Cribbs. I had his jersey, but it's funny now. I see Josh Cribbs all the time now because of why. But I'm not going to stay here. But I see Josh Cribbs a lot now in person.
Great guy,
and I still get a little stars. Yeah, very nice man. But I still get a little star-studded. His son's a bad boy too. Look out for him, Israel Cribbs. He's in high school. But what do you say? He's owned up to his mistake. Oh, we already read that. It's amazing what money can do to a great player's mind. Shaking my head. I thought Deshaun Watson, wanted to win a championship. He just lied to himself and all of us. Josh Cribbs, I love. Yeah, everybody loves Josh Cribbs. He's a great dude. And I like what he's doing out on his show over there too. But shout out to Cribbs. Might see this.
Shout out to Josh Gordon, who had a 2,000-yard season. And I will say with his issue, and I'm just going to quote him.
Talents ever.
Yeah, it's such a shame because bro was doing that. I'm just going to quote him so that we don't get in trubs. But the quote was he said on a podcast that he would drink a fifth of Jack Daniels, a whole fifth, and then go and play football. Man was out there running those routes after a fifth of Jack Daniels, which is probably the most badass thing I've heard.
Did you hear a story? Well, I heard a story today too when Michael Jordan played against the Cavs back in the he lit up the Cavs in that one game back in the Richfield
Mhm.
Coliseum. He drank like 2 beers at halftime, allegedly.
Oh yeah. I mean, that was normal back then. Like back then, that people didn't give a shit.
Yeah, they'd smoke cigarettes at halftime. Hell, the coach was giving you a cigarette at halftime back then.
I'll never forget the Super Bowl one picture of the Kansas City Chiefs quarterback. He was drinking a beer and smoking a grit in the locker room at halftime of Super Bowl one.
He was banging heat. As our buddy Dan would say. Where is? Oh, I got it right here, Mike. How does Deion Sanders feel about Bill Musgrave, Mike?
Loves it.
Super Bowl memory is a guy named Billy Musgrave, who was our scout team quarterback. Great player on his own right, but he played on scout. We had Steve Young, NFL offensive MVP. Billy worked his butt off, prepared us, really got us right. But he never played because of Steve Young. So during the Super Bowl, we're kicking San Diego's butt. And I go to George Seifert and I say, put Billy in. And he looked at me like, I said, no, man, put Billy in. And he put Billy in. And Billy got to throw a pass, and Billy got to play in the Super Bowl. And that's my fondest memory, man. That's really my fondest Super Bowl memory.
Loves Bill Musgrave, dude. Loves him. Talks about him extremely highly, and Bill Musgrave was actually asked about that recently. And Bill Musgrave says he still has a great relationship with Deion, that they still talk, and that, you know, he never had a bad word to say about Deion Sanders or his family or anything. They were very, very close and still are, from what I can imagine and hear.
Yeah, I think Deion's biggest thing is going to be who he can trust with his son. When you've coached your son like that his whole life and you're handing him off, basically, you want him to go somewhere where you know he can grow and people you trust. And there seems to be a lot of in the connections. There seems to be a lot of trust and relationship between Deion and Pat Shurmur and the Browns coaching staff, right? Because you look into, like we said, all the show, he brought up all the reasons. I think that's what going to be probably his biggest thing. And I think obviously situation is going to matter, but I think when you look at this Browns roster compared to the Giants or other teams, I'd even say the Raiders. I know some people describe. I think even the Raiders roster. I think the Browns are really closer.
The Raiders don't have one receiver that's on Jerry Jeudy's level. I mean, Brock Bowers is an excellent pass catcher, but
those rosters are not. I think the Browns, they're a team that was a playoff team last year. They had a bad season this year. They got some holes to fill, but I don't think they're not as far away as I thought they were a month ago.
Right.
Because I think the more people have kind of cooled off and you look into it, and here, if the players believe that, if Myles Garrett thinks that, then maybe he's right. I don't know. He knows that locker room probably better than any of us. He's in there every day.
He knows football better than any of us. Damn, Myles Garrett's probably one of the smartest football minds. Myles Garrett will make a hell of a coach after his time in the NFL playing.
He'd be a good player developer guy, like one-on-one guy, like his own plays. But I think here, you look at the Commanders. They were a 3-win team.
Yep. I made so many. I don't think
people don't really realize how fast you can, as fast as you go down a hole, you can get out of things pretty fast if you do it the right way.
And the Commanders did it without having really like a solid defense. Like their defense was like ranked like 26th.
But even like the year after we went 0-16, Baker Mayfield's rookie season, you know, he comes in there, it was just a fresh, breath of fresh air. Won that first game against the Jets, and the rest of the season they had a lot of momentum. Now the roster wasn't
open those beer coolers, dude. I'll never forget it.
But remember,
we'll always have the beer coolers, Baker.
Went from 0-16 to a 500 team, above 500 team. So they almost made the playoffs that year. Remember? So you know, you never know. I mean, if Shedeur could come in here and really just light up this locker room, and it just be a lightning in a bottle. They just take off. I mean, look at the Commanders this year. I mean, nobody who predicted Commanders be as good as they were this year.
Nobody.
And if you say you did, you're full of shit. Now, was Jaden Daniels my number one quarterback come out of last year? Yes. Mike's was Caleb Williams. Mine was Jaden Daniels. I liked him. I liked JJ, and I liked Drake May. Those are my 3 guys last year. And Caleb was probably 4th on my list. But I like Jaden Daniels a lot coming out of college. But I think with him and with Bo Nix, Owensby's in the house. Shout out to Owensby. He said he liked him.
Did. Yeah. He's a liar. You're a liar.
Oh, gosh. Shout out to Owensby. But
unless you're an LSU fan, in which case, all right.
but you look at him, you look at Bo Nix. It was the right fit, right fit where they can develop and flourish, and the expectations were low. Shedeur's gonna be some expectations because of his last name, but again, I think if you put Shedeur in Cleveland rather than New York or a place like Vegas, he might have a better chance to succeed because the expectations are a little lower for him. I think personally, you know what I mean. So if you put him in New York, Mike, the expectations are sky. He's got to be the savior of New York. That media market, everything. I think you put him in Cleveland. I think it gives him more chance to grow. And if it's the connections we've talked about tonight, it's people you trust, then I think that'll really help him more. You know what I mean? It'll help him really flourish more. So I think this is. I can't believe I'm actually saying this, Mike, but I think Shedeur's got to be a Brown. I really do.
I'm
I didn't think I'd be saying that.
Agree.
Now, would I do it? I'm not 100% sold if I would do it, but I think there's a chance they're going to do it. I think if I had to bet, I think they're going to do it just based on the smoke and where it seems like they're leaning towards.
Yeah, no, I mean, I believe that the smoke is definitely there. I think Shedeur would work well in the system. I think that he would feel comfortable with everybody, the familiarity. And I think the Browns would be willing to spend a 6th-round pick on Shiloh. We have like 6th-round picks this year. I don't think that
like
would be
I said, you heard me say at my opening monologue thing. I think part of the wink deal too is you got to take Shiloh. Not saying you have to, but I think it's like a thing. Like, hey, would you mind taking Shiloh and one of my receivers?
Now we need a gunner.
I'll take Will Shepherd. I like Will Shepherd a lot. I think he's really good. Big body receiver. I like the Wester kid too, which LeJounte Wester. He's a pretty talented kid.
I like Will Shepherd's my favorite receiver out of.
Yeah, I like Will Shepherd. If we have to take one of them, so it is what it is. But I think that's where they're leaning. I think Jimmy Haslam's taken big swings in the past, and I don't think he'll be afraid to take another one. And what not better if it strike? If it hits, you have a big superstar name in your city now because he is a big name because of what his last name is, and what not a better way to build momentum into that new stadium, Mike, in 2029.
Right? Yeah, he would be. He would be on the cusp of signing his 2nd contract.
Right.
Assuming he's great.
Yep. So I don't know. So you said what, 52%?
Yeah, I'm over half. This is the best way to put it. I'm over half, but still skeptical is where I'm at.
Yeah, I'm probably gonna say 55-45. Just barely over, but I think that's where it's going. Because I think the consensus is Cam's going number 1, Cam Ward. So I think Shedeur's going to be going number 2 to the Browns. I don't see them trading it either, unless it's some monster deal, which I don't think they're going to
have to be. It would have to be.
Which I agree with. You don't just trade it. Like all those people saying you should just trade back and get assets. Okay, but you shouldn't just trade your number. You don't get the number 2 overall pick that often. You don't just trade it, for a bag of cookies.
Yeah, it would have to be something nuts.
He said, we don't have to play in this weather soon anyway with the dome coming. Yeah. I mean, the dome's going to be a big sell for them in a way because players are fascinated with, if you can pay them more money than maybe another market can, like Miami, then you have the dome. I think they probably will lean this way. So it helps at least. But I don't know. But Mike, before you get out of here, though, I got to ask you, though, what did you think about the Luka Doncic trade last night?
If there was a grade below F to grade the Mavs trade, I would give them that. You know what? I'm going to give them a G grade, G- for gross, because I don't understand. I don't even begin to understand the thought process behind it. Like I've been rattling my head about it all day, and I don't understand how if you're a GM that you make that call. And like people have said, like, I think the initial reports coming out of Dallas were like, oh, they had conditioning concerns and injury concerns. He's 25. You could shore up the conditioning shit, and you're talking about a guy that nearly averages 30 who dropped 70 just last year, the heartbeat of your team, an actual superstar. And not to say that Anthony Davis isn't like superstar caliber, But you're talking about injury concerns, and you traded for Anthony Davis, who's 31, who's had far more season-ending injuries and missed more games than Luka. And also, you're going to be paying him just as much. I don't know if they're getting like gun shy with the money because like Mark Cuban sold off his majority ownership and the new majority owner isn't like, willing to pay him. I don't know if that had something to do with it. But like, and then another report that came out of Dallas was like, oh, they saw what the Cavs are doing with the dynamic defensive front court of Jarrett Allen and Evan Mobley. And it's okay. It's like, okay, Anthony Davis hardly gets into the paint. And like, he's more of your scoring center. Like, not to say Anthony Davis is a bad defensive player, because when he's on, he's on. But it's just a matter of, can he stay healthy? Will he actually be driven to do that? And I just don't understand. I don't understand it. I can't begin to understand it. And like, I don't know what the pulse is on that Dallas locker room, but I can't think it's good. Like, Kyrie Irving.
I mean, they lost by 40 plus points today to the Cavs.
Yeah, we did. I'm sure that didn't make it any better.
Yeah.
And here, I love Kyrie Irving. Love him to death. We'll always love Kyrie Irving for everything he did for the city of Cleveland. And he is a first ballot Hall of Famer as soon as he retires. Love Kyrie. But Kyrie isn't exactly a beacon of togetherness when it comes to a locker room. Never has been. Nope. Again, nothing against him. I love Kyrie Irving as a human and as a basketball player. But like, he loved Luka Doncic. Loved him like a brother. He has said it many, many times. How is he feeling about all this? Like, that's now your best player, or at the very least your second best player. But like, now Dallas needs Kyrie, who's also injury prone, and they're paying a bunch of money. I do not understand this team. I don't. Jalen. Look at what Jalen Brunson's become for New York, and look at what Luka Doncic is doing. Like, the Mavs keep making head scratcher after head scratcher. If you're a Mavs fan, I feel so bad for you. And just like, keep that 06 championship so close to your heart, because I think that's the only one you're going to have for a very, very long time.
Yeah, I mean, I was stunned when I saw the trade. I looked down like everybody else, and I read it. I was like, wait, what? You're Luka Doncic? And number one, usually you hear something about this. Nobody heard anything about this. This was kept really under wraps, really tight.
2011. Yeah, thank you, Param Jobs. My bad.
But here's my whole thing with this, right? Remember when Chris Paul was going to get traded to the Lakers back in 2012 and the league stopped it?
Yeah.
Could the league stop I mean, this is kind of weird to me.
Didn't they change that rule? I don't think they can do that anymore.
Yeah, I think they did. But it's just very weird to me. Like, it's very bizarre how this went down.
It's got to be a money thing, dude. It's got to be a money thing.
The league here, I'll say this. The league needs a spark. And you got Adam Silver on the TV this week talking about they maybe changing the 10-minute quarters and all this. And
Adam Silver and the NBA brass are just so stupid with how they handle everything.
Here, I don't like what they've done to a lot of these anything that's good in the NBA, they've ruined it. So I think that's why the league's been dying. Let's just call it like it is. The league's not what it used to be.
I will admit, I like the minute changes they made to All-Star Week. I like what they're trying to do to. I don't hate it. I don't like it. How do I put this? I like what they're trying to do to try and motivate players to care about the All-Star game.
Here, but you know what? Here's the thing, though, where I push back on that is, I get what you're saying, but the culture of the NBA, and really not, I don't even say just the NBA, and sports nowadays. You see even college football, this transfer portal stuff, just the athletes.
Yeah, that's a whole nother fucking
guys back in the day. You didn't have to worry about competition back in the day, and guys taking it seriously. Even 15 years ago, we were in elementary
Only
school.
Alabama was allowed to pay their players, allegedly.
Yeah, allegedly. But anyway, that whole conference. But that's an whole other thing, allegedly. But
allegedly.
What was I gonna say? Oh, guys back then, you didn't have to tell them. They took pride in playing in that damn game. I mean, because it was the culture of the NBA. It's what it was. What it was. The NBA now has completely abandoned a lot of what brought it to what made it great. They've abandoned all the things that made them great. The players of their past. They act like they come out here and promote all these guys and do all this stuff traditionally, but they don't. I don't think they do a good enough job. They haven't done a good enough job of bringing in. See, David Stern did a hell of a job with that. He made the game global, but he also kept the tradition of things that made the league great relevant still. I mean, it was traditional. They've gotten rid of all that, and they tried to make it into this archaic, thing now, and it's just an absolute dumpster fire, in my opinion. I don't like it as a fan. I like back when it was more East versus West in the All-Star game.
I enjoyed that.
You didn't have this dumbass in-season tournament that means nothing. We know the one at the end of the year is the one that matters. You're not drawing anybody's intrigue with an in-season tournament. A lot of teams actually just using it as a vacation in the middle of the season. To me, they've taken the value of the league as a whole. To me, it's just they're slowly disintegrating it.
To add to your point.
And also too, I think just the college game itself, the development of college players nowadays, and the college basketball is it's not what it used to be.
No,
and I think that's hurt the league too. What makes the NFL why the NFL is still the number one TV show on 5 different networks? I think a lot of it's because the college football is doing pretty well.
Yeah, I mean, all the names that are going to be coming up, and you can follow players.
And you have to have that now in the NBA. It's just, and it's not just the NBA. It's not just college sports. The whole sport of basketball, there's a lot of corruptness in it with AAU. It's been going on for years. I used to be involved in this stuff, and I saw a lot of it. A lot of it was just corrupt with coaches, and I was with some, just corrupt coaches, bad intentions, shit on other players, and it's just no development really. Nobody practices anymore. Nobody at the youth level. It's all, and it trickles down to the bottom. And so, but I think this move to me though, just seems very weird.
It seems like
the Nico guy has connection with Anthony Davis. He's an old former Nike guy.
Yeah,
knows Anthony Davis, knows LeBron and his people well, knows Clutch Sports well.
I'll say Jason Kidd looked lifeless during that press conference.
Jason Kidd looked miserable today in that press conference, and
he looked lifeless, dude.
And that guy to sit up there and say we're lockstep.
I don't even know if he said a goddamn word. I think he was just sitting there.
He looked irritated. And for that guy to sit up there and say, we're
poor Jason.
We have continuity and we're in lockstep. I don't think Jason Kidd would have pulled this deal off.
NBA legend Jason Kidd does not deserve this.
Luka Doncic is a lot like Jason Kidd in a way. Past first point guard, bigger guard. That's why he took the job there.
Yeah, Jason Kidd does not
sense. And I've never seen. That's like he said right here. Where'd it go? He said that's like trading LeBron the first time around when he was here in Cleveland. That's exactly what it's like. It's like if we would have traded LeBron Mike in 2008 after we made the finals appearance against the Spurs. We traded LeBron for freaking
nothing.
Who was an older star at the time?
Shaq.
Kevin Garnett.
Or Kevin Garnett, yeah. That's a good one.
It would have made no sense. No sense. Now, where did KG end up? In a team in Boston that already had Paul Pierce.
Oh yeah.
He added with a young star and a Ray.
You're talking pre-Brooklyn Kevin Garnett.
Yeah, that's where you trade Kevin Garnett at that time in his career. That's what they did, and it worked. That's where you trade an Anthony Davis type of guy. You know what I mean? You trade him to a place where they have a Luka Doncic and a Kyrie.
Right.
You add to that.
But and I want to add to your point as well.
Trade Luka for Anthony, and number one, the Lakers too. I mean, the Lakers are clearly just building for the future. I know I've done a lot of shows about LeBron guys, and here I brought up the Lakers and the Mavericks and the Cavs in the show many times.
They have a superstar player for the next 12 years. Good for the Lakers.
I right now, do I think LeBron's getting traded by Thursday? I do not. I think LeBron's going to ride this out. I think LeBron, we'll see what he does this offseason. He can opt out. We'll see what he does. But I don't know. But he's also 40 years old now. So
he'll be 41. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know what his priorities are now. I don't know if winning a championship's top priority.
And another thing too,
maybe it is. I don't know.
Right. And another thing too that I want to add to the NBA stuff, right? My biggest problem with the NBA now, and if Adam Silver somehow watches this, or any NBA pundit watches this, this is how I would fix the NBA tomorrow. It is ridiculous that the NBA wasn't the first time OKC and Cleveland played each other. You did not. If you were just I don't know, a Memphis fan, a Toronto fan, any other fan of any other team, or just a big market team, right? You would have not known about that game until like 2 days before.
Yep.
They did not, and it was a great game. Everybody said it was one of the best games of the season so far, and they did not properly advertise that, which is the biggest game of the regular season thus far. Both number one seeds, both up and coming young teams. You have the potential MVP and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander on one side. On the other side, you have the Cavs, which are are on a legendary run right now with 3 All-Stars and like a super genius coach, Kenny Atkinson, which is another great story. And the NBA just they didn't talk about it. None of the pundits talked about it. And I don't understand how you do it. I get LA and New York are big markets, and I get it, but the NFL does it so much better. Yes, they give proper attention to Dallas because of the fan base and the money and all that. But if Green Bay is fucking great, they're gonna hype games up with Green Bay in it. Green Bay is a town of 50,000 people. It is as big as our hometown, and it.
Mike, more people know in America who Jordan Love is than they do Victor Wembanyama.
Yeah, because they play in San Antonio, and it's ridiculous.
But San Antonio, Green Bay are basically the same. I mean, San Antonio is kind of like the Green Bay of NFL. You got a lot of championships.
It's certainly the Green Bay of Texas, but
you know what I mean. Like, you're right. I'm at your point's right. Like, the NFL does a great job of marketing its players, its young players, even guys who are.
And that's the other thing too, right?
Jordan Love's not a superstar, but
they are obsessed with old names. They are obsessed with old names in the NBA. I love Steph Curry. I love LeBron James.
The NBA is trying to milk this out as long as they can, and they've done a horrible job. I mean, back in the day, in the 2000s and the 90s and the 80s, even guys like on teams like everybody knew who Dominique Wilkins played for. He wasn't the biggest player in the league. He was a star, but he wasn't the biggest star in the league. But everybody knew he played for the Hawks. In the 90s, everybody knew Patrick Ewing played for the Knicks, or you knew who was on the Charlotte Hornets back then. You know what I mean? Like you knew who every team had its own little players and guys, and the communities bought into those teams, and it was a storyline when those teams played every night. You know what I mean? Like everybody knew.
Did Grandmama play for the Hornets, or was he a
who?
Grandmama.
My mom. I can't remember off the top of my head.
He was one of my favorite players from the 90s. I love Grandmama, dude.
But
that was his nickname because he would dress up like a grandma and he would dunk.
But everybody knew Penny and Matt with the Orlando Magic. Everybody knew, you know what I mean? Like all these guys in the 2000s, we grew up in that era. We knew all those guys and all those teams. Like remember the Memphis Grizzlies team? They didn't have stars. Everybody knew they had Zach Randolph, Marcus Gasol, Mike Conley, Tony Allen, a defensive juggernaut team. Like everybody knew those teams.
Yeah.
Nowadays, it's just not. It don't happen anymore. Somebody don't know who John Moran is. He plays for the Memphis Grizzlies. He's a superstar. Don't even know who he is.
Yeah, and look at Anthony Edwards.
Anthony Edwards. Alexander is a rise. I mean,
Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is the best player in the NBA. He's the best player in the NBA.
Who he is, and he's an OKC, and he's got the Thunder, a good organization. Anthony Edwards, like you said. I mean, this is a shame that they're not. You don't have the rivalries and the headlines and like the traction they used to have, the nostalgic. It doesn't have the nostalgia anymore.
And it's all the NBA's fault. The NBA has 32 teams like the NFL, right? Or do they have more?
30. They have 30.
They have 30. My bad. Yeah. Brain
maybe
fart.
Expanding to Vegas and Seattle.
Vegas and Seattle, which would make, because it would be silly because they would have to. Well, no, because then they just move Memphis to the Eastern Conference, which would make sense. But yeah, no, it's they have 30 teams in the NBA, and they only cover 2 of them, 3 maybe if you want to throw Boston in there. But like for the most part, it's always been the Lakers, it's always been the Knicks, and then Boston if they're good enough, and it's ridiculous. And Golden State recently, but like. Here, when Golden State doesn't have Steph Curry anymore because Steph Curry is such a big name, I want to see how fast the NBA stops talking about Golden State.
I don't know. He said, the GM said he didn't know about it.
I don't know about that.
I would tend to say he did know about it. I'd be stunned if they didn't. If they did, I'll say this: if they didn't tell LeBron, about this,
That's a
he
big
should
problem.
he should be leaving right now. Not next year, not next year, not else. He should leave right now. But if he doesn't, then you guys decide. I'll just keep the count myself. But I would be stunned if he didn't know, especially that Anthony Davis is with his agent as well, and how close they are. Allegedly, I don't. I'm not buying it. No. Are you buying that, Mike? He didn't know.
No, I think he turned in the papers himself.
Oh, all right.
I think he made the call himself.
Yeah. Anyways, LeBron. Sadly, I love him, but he did this. I think LeBron comes home next season after teaching everything Luka he knows to Luka this season.
LeBron is a good teacher as long as you don't piss him off. I mean, he's a great teacher. But
I mean, here, do I think LeBron could come back? I did, I did all that stuff back in the off season, talk about that possibility of it.
He'll come back as an owner.
I'm still going to say no. I'm going to say if he does leave LA, I think it's going to either be to expansion or he may retire. I mean, there's a report came out they may start their own league, possibly.
Yeah,
I'm not going to get into that, but I think that could be a possibility too. Or he takes his son with him. But
yeah, I think the NBA, to avoid that, they'll offer LeBron a crazy deal on an expansion team, and he'll just do that.
And it's going to be Vegas.
It'll be Vegas.
It'll be Vegas. And I think it's
been... Kevin Durant's going to have part ownership of the Seattle team.
Yep. Kevin Durant and
Sean
will get Seattle, and I think LeBron will get Vegas. I think that's been the plan for a while now.
Yeah.
And I think LeBron's last season will be with both of his sons. And Bryce will play, and he will play, and they'll be in that Vegas team, and he'll have ownership of that team. I'm still leaning that. Now, who knows? You never know. Maybe he could come back. I think he's always left the door open in case of an emergency. So
what's good? Obviously Seattle's just going to go back to the Supersonics, but what's the Vegas team?
And like the point, I don't know. Probably I think the Vegas Vipers, they said, or something like that.
Vipers. Oh.
Yeah, I can't remember the
name. You
want
something that matches the city, the Vegas
something. I can't
Sevens.
Remember. But
ooh.
But to that point, though, I just said I think the Cavs have always been like the last minute option, possibly in case he had to bail. If that's true that he didn't know, he should be a Cavalier Thursday. He has a no trade clause; he can make it happen. But I don't know if that's what's going to happen. I don't think that's what happened personally. But
and I like Jalen Tyson a lot. I mean, I would love to see LeBron get another chip with us, but any deal that
the Cavs are going to be making the Cavs will be making a deal by Thursday.
Yeah, but it's not. I don't think it's going to be as flashy as what everybody thinks. It's not going to be a flashy, super sexy deal, but it's going to be something that makes the team better.
I don't think Karis LeVert will be a Cav after Thursday. Hunch.
Which is sad because I love Karis. He's a local guy too. So
when you start seeing Jalen Tyson's minutes increase the last 2 weeks, that usually signals he's replacing somebody. And
you have Jalen Tyson for 4 years too. So
yep, and they play the same position. So I think Karis can lead you to a pretty decent player in return. That's I think a starting three. So I think the Cavs might be adding 1 or 2 players by Thursday, either one in trade, one in the buyout, or maybe both in trade. So I think it's gonna be a pretty good week for the Cavs personally, but that's just me.
I certainly hope so.
Yeah. Well, Mike, you want to tell me to like, subscribe, and share?
Hey guys, like, subscribe, and share, because if you enjoy mental health, NBA, or NFL content, we are a one-stop shop for all of those things. We also have 2 other shows known as The Fix, with all of your NFL, NBA prop bets and gambling needs. We have my show, The Professional Fan, where I cover NFL draft analysis and free agent analysis in depth. And you'd be helping out some nice local guys as well. So if you like all those things and you want to help out the show, like, subscribe, and share. It's all free and it all helps us out a lot. So we would greatly appreciate it. We appreciate everybody commenting and hanging out with us, and continue to do that. We'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, well said. And love all you guys. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share, and spread the word. And we'll see you guys in the next one. We're out of here.
Later.